Here are the main flaws in this reasoning. The most important flaw is that the author has based his conclusion only on the last quarter results. What if this was something seasonal and the long-term profitability is intact? The second main flaw is that the author has not considered why the investors are pumping in some very serious money. What if all of the money that they are putting in for the discounts and all is for some long-term benefit? So the author has not at all addressed the logic behind investors putting in so much money. The next flaw is that 70%, whenever you see such numbers on the GMAT AWA, 70% companies have shown negative profits. Take it with a pinch of salt. There must be very often there is a flaw in such big numbers. 70% sounds like a strong majority, but think of an industry. 70% of the companies in an industry are not doing well does not mean the industry is not doing well. Take the example of, let's say, the film industry. If 70% movies don't do well, that does not mean that the film industry is not doing well. So it's more about whether those real big players are doing well in the industry. Think of online retail. The top 10 companies in the online retail in a country would have an overwhelming majority of the revenues and therefore very often the profits. So if the top few companies are doing really well, maybe the industry is doing very well. So the author has not suggested anything about which 70% companies are not doing well. What if the top few players are doing very well and are highly profitable? That would make the industry very profitable. The author has failed to provide the net figures. This is the number that is the most important, that what were the revenues in the online retail space and what were the overall profitability. This is the number that is the most important when you're talking about the future of a complete industry. That what is the top row and what is the bottom row. The most important data completely missing. There is a lack of head-to-head comparison between online and physical stores. The author has been bashing the online model. He suddenly concludes in favor of the retail model, but he at no stage gives a head-to-head comparison between the two models. A very clear trend analysis in revenues as well as profit for the online model and the brick and mortar model is crucial for coming to the conclusion that the author has come to. The fact that 80% of the companies have foreign funding, is it really a threat? 80% companies have funding, but what percentage of their equity has been given to foreign investors? So even if a company has 1% foreign investment, it does not mean that that 1% suddenly becomes a threat. 80% companies have funding, but what percentage of their equity is actually foreign money? That data is completely missing. And even if there is a high exposure to the foreign investors, how can the author conclude that that is really a threat? Coming back to this point right now, 80% companies have foreign funding, but which 80% companies? What about the other 20%? What if the real main players, the top few players, are completely self-reliant and they do not have any foreign investment? And even if they do, the point I was talking about last is that what makes this investment risky, unreliable? The author has not backed this claim by any supporting data or reasoning. Without any reasoning, just calling something risky, unreliable, at best can be called an opinion. It cannot be called a reasoning. So no supporting argument in favor of this opinion or judgment that the foreign money invested here is risky or unreliable. And then suddenly the conclusion that the physical stores are there to stay, this is completely hasty. The author has not given any evidence, any argument in support of the physical models being in good health in present or in future. Suddenly suggesting Olympus to open new stores sounds completely undeliberated, very casual. This conclusion, this suggestion has been backed by no logical reasoning or predictive financial analysis, something which is very important in making business decisions, taking such strategic initiatives such as increasing the number of retail stores. And the author has completely ignored the online model, and he has just said that focus on the brick and mortar model. He has completely shrugged away the possibility of an online model. Why not take the preemptive measure of going the online way as well and diversifying the risk? So nothing has been said about why diversification is not good. The author has just completely hastily said that online is bad and brick and mortar is good, the physical is good. So no, this is not how sound reasoning is done. So in all, I have suggested around 10 flaws here. With some overlap, I would say that there are good 8 independent flaws. If you are able to identify even 5 or 6 of these flaws, even 5 is generally a very good number to come up with flaws. 5 flaws in an essay always make the essay look very meaty. So have a good introduction in the beginning, one paragraph, strong conclusions, strong introduction, very clearly suggesting your stand. The stand in AWA essays is always that you are not in favor of the argument. The stand is always that the reasoning is not convincing, the argument is not convincing, the argument is flawed. So have a strong introduction suggesting that you are not convinced by the argument. Then have one paragraph for each of the flaw that you have identified. So if you have identified 5 flaws, have one paragraph, however small, different for each flaw, and then have a strong conclusion. This would be a good structure to the entire essay. Follow this format and have a different paragraph every time for each flaw. I hope this was helpful.